Well, I know not many can say that they got to grow up in one house their whole childhood and their parents still live there today. And so I always feel lucky that my parents have lived here for about 40 years. We got to grow up here. But it wasn't always this big. It was about half the size, actually. So when we were growing up, our house was very small. We had one living room, one bathroom, one TV. It was great at the time. I think it made us a closer family. But then when we were in high school, my parents added on pretty much doubling the living space in their house. And one thing that my mom always wanted was a pantry, a legitimate walk-in, close the door when company's coming over pantry where her deep freezer could be, where it was lined with shelves, lots of storage, right? Everybody wants lots of storage. And so she finally, after 20 years, got her pantry. But you know how it goes. Sometimes the inventory creeps up, we get busy with other things, and it just gets a little bit out of control. And so if I were to be honest with you, I've actually been putting this off for quite a while. My mom kept asking, like, when can we do our pantry? And I would look at it and I'd get overwhelmed and I would close the door and I would put it off. And I'd say, maybe next week, Mom. And so I will tell you that I still often get overwhelmed by spaces too. And I don't consider myself an organizing expert or a professional organizer by any means. And so I had to stop and say, okay, what are the tools that I have to use and I want to use? I knew I wanted to use Dana's method of decluttering without making a mess. I didn't know how long this project was going to take, but I knew I didn't want to turn around and have a huge mess behind me in case I got interrupted and would have to come back. And that happened multiple times, actually. We would work on it for a couple hours at a time. I'm like, I gotta go. All right, so again, our whole goal is to do this without having a huge mess outside of the pantry. So when we turn around, there's not a huge mess behind us. And so literally the only thing I've pulled out is the recycling and 2 cases of Diet Coke, right? So if I had to stop right now, I could push it all back in really quickly. But otherwise, I've just been working on getting stuff off the floor, so more of it has gone onto the freezer. But again, it's contained, so I'm not too worried about that. But I just needed to get the floor, have some space where we could walk in there, move around, clean that up a little bit. And now there's a couple big items in here that we know, I've already talked with my mom, that she's just not using. So I want to pull those out. Those are going to give us some big wins right away. And then from there, we're going to start zoning the pantry. So everything having an assigned home or area, and then we'll start moving stuff there. And that'll give us a better idea too, where we just still have too much inventory and we need to pare it down a little bit more. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can totally see, we actually have 3 appliances right now. We have the Ninja blender, which we're going to keep because they still use that occasionally. We have a New Wave and a deep fryer. Both the New Wave and the deep fryer have gotten replaced with the actual air fryer. So we're gonna let those go, and that's gonna free up some space in here. Okay, so now we have a little room on the floor to move around. So I was just talking to my mom about the different zones that we wanna have. She has some set up here for pantry stuff that's been working really well. We wanna keep the crock pots here, but there was stuff that was always getting piled on top of the freezer just because it's a flat surface, right? So that's where everything gets piled. So we were talking about moving it, we emptied out this shelf, moving it down there. And then we were just talking about, there's a lot of stuff on the top shelves that we know isn't getting used anymore. And so we're gonna take out some of that just to clear up a little more room that can get donated, and then we'll be able to move stuff around a little bit more comfortably. We're also gonna make a section for grilling stuff that we haven't had. And the light bulbs are currently in a plastic bag, so we're gonna give those a home too. And I think, Mom, when you and Dad originally set this up, it was all about maximum storage, right? Like maximize, put as many shelves and stuff in. But now this time around, that was 20 years ago, which is kind of hard to believe. So this time around, it's more about functionality. Yes. And we don't actually want to be able to keep everything possible under the sun. Right. So it's more about just setting it up so it works well, there's enough room for everything, but we're not tempted to keep too much stuff either. And so I kind of got started with the main declutter. Going in, I knew we were gonna have to get rid of, I thought probably about half the inventory to get down to a point where we could really organize it again. Another one. Oh, and like ice packs. Okay, that's all gonna go. We don't. It turns out we probably got rid of close to 75% of it, really, when it came down to it, between the stuff that was in there and then the groceries.
What is it?
I have no idea.
It's a bottle of champagne.
Oh, it's a bottle of like champagne. What's it from?
I don't know.
We're gonna celebrate once the pantry's done. Does champagne get better with age?
Sure.
My mom is actually a really organized person, and I know so many of you that are naturally organized, you get frustrated when you can't keep things organized and neat, and usually it's just because the inventory has gotten out of control again. I mean, when you look at where we were starting with this, it would have been physically impossible to organize it with how much stuff is in there, right? So first we have to start with a massive declutter, and that gets us back to a point where then our organizing tactics and techniques really are effective. Is this your chocolate stash up here? I think all that can go. Oh no! Dawn's mouth.
You better explain.
Oh, yep, those are molds. We can let that go. Thanks for keeping it safe, Mom.
No problem.
So this is an insulated bag for the crock pot, but you have the insulated crock pot now. Should we donate that?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't ever plan on being a double-fisted crock pot taker anymore.
We do like our hot dishes, but
Yeah.
it's okay. Don't tell Dad this hat over there. This is like a cake decorator pamphlet.
Are you interested in it?
No.
Me neither.
Although we did eventually get to a point then where I was like, I actually want to see everything together that we're decluttering. And so we started piling our donation pile because I knew I was fully committed and I would deal with it. But do know that's not always the best idea if you have people in your household that might pull stuff back out, or if you get overwhelmed. We could have done this whole process using Dana's method with our donation box and taking it out to the car every time that it got filled up. But it was pretty remarkable to see how much stuff fit in there. And so how do we decide what to keep? My mom was really ruthless. She was ready to be done with a lot of this stuff, and if she didn't know for sure that she was going to be using it, she agreed she didn't want to have to manage it anymore. So she made the process really easy, and we got rid of a ton. And another tool I had was knowing my mom's organizational style. So she is a ladybug, which means you like stuff out of sight and more macro categories. And she had organization in place in here. So I tried to use some of the existing organization, the places that she was naturally using for things, but then we also had to come up for some things on our own. Like there wasn't really a dedicated spot for grilling stuff, and they do a ton of grilling, or for entertaining. So when my mom hosts, usually she uses paper plates, paper napkins, and depending on the occasion, usually she uses real silverware if we're at the house, but if we're going for a picnic or something like that, then she'll use plastic silverware. So we needed to find a way to keep that all organized and have it in one spot so it's easy to see the inventory. We quickly noticed when we started kind of zoning and getting stuff where it went, I mean, she had tons and tons of paper napkins, right, that she had forgotten about. They also had 2 bins of light bulbs, which it was just because they weren't consolidated together, right? There were some on, like literally every shelf in there had some light bulbs on it. And that happens to all of us. And we find ourselves rebuying things we already have because really it was quite simple. There wasn't a bin for light bulbs, right? So we created bins, multiple for the light bulbs in this case, so that now everybody in the house knows where the light bulbs are. There's one place for them. They're right there. If you need a light bulb, you better be checking there first before you go to the store, right? My mom just said, can we say no judging? No one's judging you, Mom. I think we all know how this happens. And while we were gone, my mom went through all of the groceries and got rid of anything 2019 and older. Is that what you were using? So she's okay if, you know, we know food's still edible after its expiration date for most things, but the flavor can change a little bit. She's okay with that. You get to decide. You know, for me, I usually go to current dates. Anything older than that we get rid of, because if it's expired, it means we weren't using it, right? And I know better than to think, oh, if I stick it back in, I'm gonna magically use it. Like, that just doesn't usually happen. So anything 2019 or older went. There was only 2 bags. Our oldest prize goes to this rosemary garlic from 2011. So we're gonna let that go. But otherwise, now that it's mostly decluttered, we got everything out of here that doesn't belong. Now we're gonna start organizing and getting stuff into some bins, get it all into the right zone of the pantry. my mom said, I feel ashamed of this. Wasting food, I mean, she's always said is one of her biggest horrors and feels like it's just so wrong to waste food, right? And so I had to remind her that managing her pantry has not been her main focus in a very, I mean, probably ever, but they have had so many things on their plate these last few years that managing the pantry was very low on the priority list. And so again, as we look at like the 4-burner theory and all the things that we all juggle on a regular basis, it's just impossible to do them all perfectly. And so yes, are we gonna have things that have expired? Are we gonna have things that we bought and didn't use? Are we gonna have extra light bulbs that we kept buying because we couldn't find them? Of course we are, because that's not our main focus right now. So we just have to expect there's gonna be some margin of error in there. All right, so we have made a ton of progress in here, but my parents left for a little bit and my mom thought we were just gonna leave it like this, but I thought, you know what? I think we need to brighten up the freezer. I got some white appliance epoxy. It's gonna look like a brand new freezer. They got this as a wedding gift. That's like 40 years ago. Wait, how long ago? Yeah, 40 years ago. These shelves over on this side, they're 20 years old, right? They just look a little tired and abused. So I think we can use the same paint on them and just kind of freshen everything up and then put some pretty white bins in. So it just really feels like a nice place. My mom feels bad. She's like, the other bins I brought in for like the light bulb, she's like, oh, don't put those pretty bins in my pantry. I'm like, no, you deserve pretty bins, right? She's gotten by with dollar store bins for as long as I can remember. And that's super cool, but you know what? We're gonna go all out. We're gonna give her some pretty bins and brighten things up just a little bit. And then as we were getting things cleaned out and organized, we got the freezer cleared off and I realized, oh no, like, I mean, it's been 20 years since the pantry's been painted, right? Like for most of us, we don't like repaint it on a regular basis. And so I'm like, you know what, we're gonna go the extra step. We're gonna paint the walls and give the freezer some touch-up paint. And I'm really glad that we did, because it's a space that we use multiple times a day, right? And so it should feel nice. And so one of the problems they were having that we were hoping to remedy is that a lot of their snacks and quick grab stuff would just get set on the freezer. And so like Cass from Clutterbug says, if you want something to get put away, it has to be almost as easy to put away as it is to leave it out, or in this case, to set it on the freezer. And so originally the crock pots were on this shelf where I put the snack baskets. We decided to move those up, put the snacks, super easy spot to put them, and then we just moved the crock pots down a level, and that worked out perfectly. And we also introduced a lot of bins, and I like having bins for 2 reasons. One, if it's on a shelf that's up higher, like all of the party supplies, we need to be able to pull it down so we can see what we have. That's why my mom had so many extra napkins, is because they were just sitting loose on the shelf, and so you just keep adding more, right? You can't see actually how many are up there unless you got on a stool. So now that they're in a bin, it's very easy to pull it down and see how many that she has. The other thing is that it works as a container and it limits how many we have. So if that bin starts to get full, do not grab any more napkins on clearance or at the dollar store at a garage sale, right? So it's a container or a limit to how much we should have. And the same thing with this clear bin that we're using for extra salad dressings and condiments. Now my mom knows if that's full, I don't need any backups. Like that's my container, that's my limit for how much extra that I can have so that we're not being wasteful and they don't expire before we use them. But she does like having extras on hand. So have as many extras as fit in that bin, and then that's our limit. That's how many we're gonna have. My mom kept saying, okay, this is my Christmas present and my Mother's Day present and my birthday present. No more, you know, like, and I was like, Mom, don't be silly. I was really glad to get to do this for her, because my parents are 2 of the hardest working people that I know. And yes, even though we grew up in a small house, it was like the best childhood that we could have asked for. So we are so grateful and indebted to them, and they host like every time. Anytime there's something going on, we're always headed over here, and it's been such a great place for our kids to get to grow up and spend time now. So we are just so grateful and we feel indebted to them. So there, Mom. And my mom let us do this today, right? So it wasn't going to start out as a YouTube video. It was supposed to just be for our private Facebook group, but she's so gracious. So thank you, Mom, for letting us see your mess. But again, obviously we don't hold anything against my mom, right? We don't hold anything against you. If your space has just gotten out of control, it's okay. It hasn't been your #1 job to manage that inventory, but I do encourage you to get started. Use the method for decluttering without making a mess. I have a full video on that, so I'll link to that down below. If you haven't watched it in a while, it's a great refresher. But you could really make your way through your pantry or another space that's been giving you grief that you've been avoiding, shutting the door again. You could really make your way through it quickly too with using these same tools. So I want that for you too, because we all just kind of find ourselves standing there and looking at it. Even my brother came over, he was like, this looks really good. And I'm like, I know, right? And so it feels good, it functions well, it looks good, and you deserve to have that too. I love you. I hope you have a really good day, and I'll see you again soon.